Rewritten! Stephen was the first person to react. He got up and ran over to White Diamond's cracked gem, stumbling and tripping over the piles of rubble from the table. It was easily 5 times bigger than he was, the crack splitting over the surface like a bleeding wound, its light sputtering out of the fractures like blood. A chill trickled down his throat, shaking him to his core. "Wait," he whispered. "Wait, no, I didn't..." He did this. No, this is fine, she's fine," Stephen stammered compulsively. "I can heal her." Despite every horrible thing White had done to him, despite how many lives she'd ended, despite how she'd gladly torn him in half while wearing a glittering smile, Stephen still cared about her. He didn't even know why. She'd never given him a reason to feel this way, but Stephen did anyway. He didn't want this. He licked his hand, trying to gather the healing spit, but his mouth was so dry that it took several swipes to get enough. He felt his head swooning as even more energy was sucked out of him, used up on making the spit actually useful. He only faltered for a moment, though, too scared to care about how tired he was, quickly pressing it into her gem. It didn't do anything at first, and for a couple of terrifying moments, Stephen was back in the bathroom, kneeling at the edge of the tub that was filled with the diamond's essence, dunking Jasper's shards in and out in a desperate attempt to bring her back, knowing that it was hopeless, that he could never take back what he'd done. But then a tiny pink flare, like a sparkler, was set off, wriggling its way across the crack. A splotch of the colorless jewel's surface was covered in a sheen of pink, and when it faded away, that part was healed. He applied the healing spit over and over again, onto every single broken surface, the pounding headache slamming into the back of his skull harder and harder as he sacrificed more and more of his energy, until White's gem looked just as perfect as it had been before, good as new. He fixed it. She was healed. She was fine. She would be regenerating in an hour or so. Still, he felt no relief. He looked back at the gems around the room, who still seemed in shock. They had heard everything that he said. He almost did it again. The only reason that she hadn't shattered into a million pieces was because of her own gem's resilience. But it didn't matter if she had only poofed. It didn't matter if she could regenerate. He had wanted to kill her so badly, and had only been just barely stopped by chance. Yellow seemed to break out of the stunned petrification first. "Stephen," she breathed. Why did you..." He looked from her to White's gem, frantic. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Why did I... Why did he do this? His fists were in his hair again, pulling sharply as he backed away. He had no idea how to explain, or if there even was an explanation. What's happening? I don't understand. Why did I do that? I don't understand. He became terrified as Yellow rose up from where she'd been crouched, reaching towards him. But he soon realized that she wasn't aiming for him. She was scooping up White's gem, the colorless jewel heavy and bigger than her hands. She held it up, staring at its glimmering surface, now flawless as it had been before. Something went wrong, Yellow stated, putting the pieces together. Something with her magic. It dragged something out of you. It does that to gems whenever she shares her mind. It's like an open gate, letting every feeling pass between you, no matter how deeply it's buried. Usually it's better for communication, but for you... She trailed away softly. Stephen just stared up at her, hollow. He wanted that to be true. He hoped that it was. But even if it had amplified a hidden part of him, why was that part even there? A sudden fizzing noise from the overhead speakers startled all of them. A system of homeworld-wide announcements was set in almost every building, including this one. The announcement was on the far wall from where this was all happening, the system lighting to life, a holographic screen projecting upwards onto the wall with the communicator sounds focusing and clearing the static. The face that appeared on the screen was grinning and cat-like, the color a splatter of blue and red, their dark maroon hair cupped close to their head. A pair of feathery hawk wings comprised of clear water was fluttering behind her back, with 4 legs angled below her like a spider centaur. She had 2 gems, one of them taking place of her left eye, the other a teardrop shaped right below it. They were in the same hues as the rest of them, a swirling mixture of red and blue that hadn't quite made it to purple yet. A permafusion. It was Bluebird. The gem who had been responsible for the graffiti, who had threatened Stephen's dad before swearing to get him back for foiling their plans of revenge. And even though the small permafusion was probably no match for him in a real fight, even with her icy scabbards, the thrilled and excited look that was curling their lip made him fear the worst. She must have snuck into the announcement's control room. "Greetings, fellow gems of Homeworld!" Bluebird cleared her throat, straightening her back importantly. "I am sure you are already familiar with the Bluebird movement, and as you can see, I am the dear leader of our group. But do not fret if you do not agree with our words, for you will very, very soon after you see this recording that I captured only mere moments ago." She held up a small crystalline communicator-like device for the camera to see, presenting it like it solved all of her problems. "Everything that you are about to see is the pure, unfiltered truth of Steven Universe's true colors," Bluebird giggled, "finally presented to the public to judge for themselves. Discover the unacceptable behavior your precious diamonds have been hiding from you." Wait, was she talking about... How did she... Before he could finish that thought, the recording began. "She's the one that should be afraid," his echoing, monstrous voice played back at him. Stephen gasped, recognizing the scene immediately. It was shot near the entrance door, which seemed to be cracked open, just enough to see through. Stephen was standing in the rubble of the teal-colored meeting table, with White Diamond in his control. Blue, Yellow, Spinel, and Volleyball were watching in shock as they began to stand up, slowly and dangerously, shivering from tension. "Stephen?" Spinel squeaked in the recording. He didn't react. "What's going on?" Stephen and White's voices echoed as his hands raised. The whole of Homeworld watched in absolute horror as Stephen forced her hands to clench together, rearing back, all the while she pleaded for him to stop. "Stop it! I don't like this!" "Too bad," he had replied, scarily monotone, like all the life was sucked out of him. "No, wait!" Stephen shouted in the real world, jumping up. I didn't mean to, The recording continued on, White's voice breaking and crying, the gems yelling at him to stop. "Let me go, please! You're scaring me!" "This is for everything you put me through." Stephen watched as he forced her to throw her fist up into her gem, the horrible crack shadowed only by the shriek that tore from White's throat. Stephen was snapped to his own body. White poofed and fell, her broken gem slamming to the floor. All of it shone to every gem on Homeworld. When it ended, Bluebird popped back onto the screen, shouting, "Steven Universe just tried to shatter White Diamond! I don't know about you, but I think that is the last straw!" She prowled from one side to the other on her four spider-like legs, sneering, "Steven is the cause of all of our problems! Steven is trying to tear down the Empire. He always has! He is a distracting parasite, taking our diamond's attention for his own, and now attempting to shatter White Diamond! Don't let him blind you from what he's really like. You all saw what he did to her. We need to stop him before he does that to all of us!" Her words felt like poisoned spears, impaling through him over and over again. He couldn't move. Bluebird called loudly and bravely, "Ever since he showed up, our perfect, glamorous empire crumbled to the ground. The diamonds won't do a thing about him, so we have to sever our ties with him and start anew." She finished with a flourish. "We must rise up! We only have a few minutes. Stephen is still inside of the palace's meeting room with the other diamonds. Join with me and cleanse Homeworld of his toxic reign." Bluebird was replaced by the same recording from before, played on loop this time, over and over again, drilling into his mind, roaring all around him, surrounding him, crushing him under its weight. There was a commotion outside, growing louder and louder. "Stephen, we have to get you out of here!" Spinel's voice dragged him back to reality. She was tugging on his arm, panic in her candy-pink eyes. "They're coming!" Pounding footsteps, battle cries, curses to his name. Nothing motivated gems more than their diamonds being in danger. And now, every single gem on Homeworld thought that Stephen was threatening all three of the towering monarchs.